How I do Salesforce Part 3. Welcome. My name is Paolo, and in today's video, I want to talk about how I create Salesforce reports. The report builder in Salesforce is pretty good, in my opinion, but it can be a little bit overwhelming if you're starting out. So I wanted to make a quick video to show you how I go about creating reports in Salesforce. And hopefully the way that I approach it will be helpful to you next time you find yourself needing to create a report. So let's jump right in. Here we are in Salesforce, and obviously the first thing you want to do is you want to navigate to the Reports tab. Once you're here, then you want to create a new report. Now, we're going to do something quite easy. So I'm just going to create a report for contacts and accounts. This is a standard report type, so it's something that you should have access to as well. So you want to click on the report type that you want, and then you would click on Start Report. If you're not sure that the report type you're selecting is going to allow you to fetch the records and display the information that you want, then before you click on Start Report, scroll down under the details and you'll be able to see all the objects that are used in this report type. You can also click on the Fields tab and it will show you the fields that you can actually reference within your report. So this is a great way to check whether the report type that you've selected is actually going to allow you to show you the information that you want. In this case, this is just a demo, so contacts with accounts will be just fine. So I'll go ahead and click Start Report. Now, this is the report builder. If this is the first time that you're seeing it, then don't worry, we're going to go through it one step at a time. The first thing I like to do is, if you look on the left-hand side, you'll notice that we have two tabs. One is called Outline and the other is called Filters. I always start with the Filters tab. And essentially the idea is this. On the Filters tab, you're able to customize what records you want to see in your report. And then on the Outline tab, you're able to design and customize how you want to see that information. That's why I start with the Filters tab, because first I want to figure out what I want to see in my report, and then I want to figure out how I want to see that information. So under my Filters tab, you have some pre-selected filters that are defined based on your report type. So in this case, the Show Me and Create a Date are defined here. And so what I want to do is I actually want to just see all of the data, because at the moment it's not showing me anything and it's going to be quite hard for me to demo something without any data. So I'm going to click on Show Me. And then instead of my contacts, I'm going to select all the accounts because I want to see all of the accounts in the system. Now notice that as soon as I selected that, on the center part of my screen, we have an actual preview and it's not showing me any records. It says here, no records returned. And the reason for that is because the filters work together, and the created date is unfortunately too present for my org. So this is a dev org. I've got old data in here. And so I'm going to change that. The range of the date is going to be all time. And essentially what I'm saying here is show me all accounts in the system that were created on all time, which means at any point in time that they were created, show me that record. So when I hit apply, you'll see that now I actually have some data being returned to me. So this is great. Now I can see all of the accounts in the system that were ever created. Good. Another thing to note about this preview component here on the center of my page is that although it's showing me some records, at the moment it's showing me 20 records, this won't show you all of the records. So pay attention to this message here on the top that says previewing a limited number of records. So if you want to see all of the records, you have to actually run the report. So remember that this is just a preview, okay? Another thing I want to point out is on the far right-hand side, there is a little toggle that says updated preview automatically. Essentially what this means is anytime I make a change to a filter, it will automatically update the preview component. And if I don't, then I have to click refresh myself. So let me show you what I mean. So if I go to the created date and I change the range to, let's say 2 fiscal years ago, you see that the preview has been updated and it's not showing me any records. Now, if I turn this toggle off and I change it back to all time, you see that it's not showing me anything and now it's grayed out. And that's because I have to manually refresh the component by clicking on the refresh button, and now it's going to show me stuff. So if you have a lot of changes to make, I recommend turning the update preview automatically toggle off, because otherwise this is going to continuously keep refreshing for you. But if you only have a few updates to make, or if you want to make updates and kind of see the results before you make another update, then it's a good idea to keep this on. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it on. Okay, so back to our 2 tabs. On the filters tab, I've pretty much selected all of the filters that I wanted to see. I just want to see all of the accounts that were ever created in the system at all times. And so this is what I'm looking at right now. But in your case, you can add more filters to this if you need to. You can just click on the add filter box, and then you can search for all kinds of stuff and then add the filter to your report. Just remember, the filters dictate what records the system is fetching. If you're not seeing records that you want to see, it means that you need to either remove the filter that you have or you need to change it. So just keep that in mind. So after you selected all the filters that you want, then we can go to the outline tab, and here we can dictate how we want to see this information. So because I'm searching for accounts with contacts, then I think it's a good idea to group my contact records by the account name. So on the left-hand side, we have groupings, and so I can either add group rows to my report, or I can just add columns. Now, I already have a whole bunch of columns here, and you can see them on the top here. So salutation, first name, last name, title. You can see that it's in order here from the left-hand side view to the top of my preview. That's how that works. It's very simple. It's very much like a spreadsheet, like an Excel spreadsheet. So if you're familiar with that, then you'll be very familiar with this as well. But what you can very easily do is group rows as well. So what I want to do is I want to group rows by account name. And so here I can click on add group and I can search for the account name. And now what will happen is on my preview, you see that on the left, I've essentially grouped all of my accounts by their name, like for example, Dixon's PLC. And then next to that, I can see all of the contact records that belong to that account. In this example, Andy Young. Now, if we look at Edge Communications account, then we actually have Sean and Rose. These are the 2 contacts that are part of this account. So it's a nice and easy way for me to be able to see all of my accounts and the contacts that belong to those accounts. So that's how you can add a group. There is another way that you can add a group. Let me just remove this one for now. And so if you have the actual field in your column, so I'll add account name in here to show you. So account name is actually now as a column in my report. And so if I wanted to add that as a group, it would essentially remove it from the column. So I can either type in the account name on the add group search here, like we did before, or I can just drag and drop account name to the group and it will do the same thing. So it's an interactive user interface, so you can drag and drop things as well. Another way that you can add fields to your report is if you don't want to use the search functionality here because maybe you don't know what it is that you're searching for, which happens more often than you think, then what you can do is on the far left, there is a tab here called Fields. You can click on this little arrow and then this component will expand. And here you can search for all the fields that you have access to within your report type. So make sure you remember that everything's driven by your report type, which is what we selected at the beginning of this report. So Here, if you don't know what you're searching for, you can just scroll through it to have a look. And then if there is something that you like, let's say you really want to see the fax number of a contact record, because why wouldn't you? And so you can just drag and drop that field onto the column, and then that field is then added to your report. And to my surprise, all of my contacts have a fax number, which currently is blowing my mind, but fair enough. If you really wanted to group contacts by their fax number, you can add additional grouping as well. You can drag and drop that field to the groups row, and now we can see all of our accounts grouped by fax, and then all the contacts that belong to it. This is starting to look messy. I'm also very worried that there are so many fax numbers in my dummy data, but hey ho, it is what it is. You can also group columns instead of grouping rows. And so we can just drag the fax number there, for example. And now what happens is we get this kind of table on top of our report that kind of groups all of the fax numbers by columns, and then we can just see how many records has that fax number. So for example, this fax number here ending in 9000, 3 zeros, yeah. There are two fax numbers. That is this fax number under the Edge Communications account, and that's probably from Sean and Rose. Is it Sean? Let's have a look. Sean and Rose, that's it. Edge Communications, Sean and Rose. They have the same fax number. Thank God for that. I'll probably be worried if husband and wife had two separate fax numbers. That would be pushing it. That'd be too much for sure. Anyway, so you can use the component here on the left to just scroll through the fields that are available to you, drag and drop them to your report. And then when you finish, make sure you save your report. So on the top right, you can just save the report if you want to. And so this page will come up. Make sure you give your report a name, and please give your report a description, a good description explaining what your report is for. And then you can hit save. Another thing that you can do is you can save and run. So save and run is essentially you're saving the report and then you're running the report to see the data as well. Sometimes when you're creating a report, you don't need to run it because you're just creating a report that perhaps you're going to use later, or perhaps you're just saving it because you've run out of time and now you need to go and do something else. But sometimes you need to create a report and then you want to run it to see the information. And so you have these two options as well. And remember, only when you run the report are you going to be able to see all of the information that is going to be fetched by your report. This is just a preview, and it shows you limited numbers of records. Now, there are much more functionality that the report builder can offer you. You can add charts, you can add filters, you can add coloring. There are detailed rows and subtotals, and you can add formulas and logic. There is so much more that you can do with reports. But in its most basic form, when you're creating any kind of report, this is how I do it. I first work on the filters tab, then I work on my outline tab. And that's how I go about making reports in Salesforce. I hope you found this video helpful. Until next time.